Part 2 of History, Mystery, and the Bound Imagination. Through the help of ancient art and sculpture design, vases, tomb walls, inside of caves, etc., we see that sometime after people first roamed Earth, the ancient Greeks were performing in competitive Olympic events. This spurred the human beings' competitive natures to see who could control their bodies the best while moving objects the furthest or quickest. These athletes did not compete for money, but rather the statues and crowns of olives symbolizing their hero-esque statues for their victories. Permanent fame was established through glorious stories of folklore passed from one generation to the next. Losers of these events became a public disgrace, and cheaters who took the magic mushroom, not dissimilar to the current steroid controversy. The Greeks' ideal sense of excellence came through individual athletic achievement due to the way that they portrayed people through their work of arts. The legends of this era were creatively depicted with superhuman strengths and abilities via art, music, and poetry. As much of the Greek culture revolved around the imaginative possibilities of learning through artistic expression, it is only fitting that such elaborations were created in this manner. Greek men often challenged one another in random competitions of body control, standing on stones or wood, for instance, while pushing each other, holding onto large pieces of fruit while others tried to take it from their grasp. Stories depict scenes of these individuals in motion while killing large animals with their bare hands, holding horse chariots, and holding up roofs of caves. Ancient sculpture designs show lean, muscularly defined individuals training for such events. Movements and symmetry were simultaneously expressed in Greek art, as the interactions of that time were harmonious amongst both people and earth. There was no modern science spewing systemized knowledge, principles, ambiguous training methods, or research collected data. There was no mechanical approach to living and training as we have unjustly been dealt today. There was only creativity and logic. Logic. It's kind of a lost art today. With no technology to draw from, the Greeks were forced to rely upon free weights in the form of wood, stone, and iron for added resistance. Today's sense of excellence seems to stem from theory-based discoveries, oftentimes centered on an artificial, uninventive protocol. We would be well served to simplify our approach to training and apply the lessons that strengthened the ancient Greeks. A good mentor side note right here, by the name of Gary Gray, the Gray Institute, they often refer to protocol as the imprisonment of the protocol and the encouragement of customization. As we continue through this cool little book that I've put together, throughout the first 13 editions of the Olympics, a one-day religious festival of running events dominated the competitive landscape. As time passed, other events were added, and subsequently, the scheduled celebration was chronologically elongated. Athletics became an integral part of the Greek educational system, and Plato introduced wrestling into schools as a means for enhancing military skill and personal development. The wrestling schools soon transpired into a ritual of passage shared amongst Greek males. It was strongly believed that the better shape the body was in, the higher the propensity for victory during these times of war. Likewise, those who could not participate at minimum levels of physical conditioning demands were punished. Well-balanced nutritional schemes and exercise regimens were implemented by instructors whose job was to constantly pinpoint and correct dysfunctional movements. As moving was thought to be harmonious, many workouts were done to the tune of playing a flute. It's a little bit weird, but I like music, and being outside, having access to birds and such, it's pretty musical. Today, the Olympics have added numerous events, including the Winter Games, as well as the X Games that require skillful, harmonious body control. Although the Games started for the people surrounding Athens, it eventually transpired into the whole world being involved through the encouragement of peace among nations and cultures to enjoy athleticism and the ability of individuals to control their body. Athleticism today is still viewed as heroic, as athletes still trying to swing objects, catch, kick, and propel objects with their hands and feet better than their competition. The same training methods from ancient Greece were utilized through the 1940s in the United States with the development of free weights, barbells, and dumbbells, and began to progressively change when bodybuilding became a competitive endeavor. By the 1960s and 1970s, society began to change their opinion on exercise as it was gaining increased popularity and acceptance. It was about this time when Frank Zane, Jack LaLanne, and Arnold Schwarzenegger dominated the fitness scene. Gyms became the universal center for disseminating training information, and with the rise in demand for memberships, so too went the demand of physical education. With this growth came uneducated patrons in a gym environment who sought out guidance from anyone who looked to be an expert on the topics of health, physical education, fitness, and recreation. Unfortunately, these fitness gurus were often no more than genetically blessed individuals who were capitalistically driven, which capitalism is a bad thing, but managing and taking advantage of people for the sake of sponging their money, there's a big problem with that. Semi-knowledgeable with marketing and rarely had any professional training experience. The result of this gross misrepresentation of coaching yielded watered-down training programs and an increased gap between desire and availability. It was also about this time when technology was introduced to fitness by way of machine-based resistance apparatuses. The idea behind the design of this equipment was to allow a high volume of work to be concentrated to a target muscle or muscle group in a comfortable manner, using padded seats and cushioned benches. With little to no creativity required, these machines were developed so that everyone, regardless of previous skill level, could participate. This mechanical approach to movement both disrespected and devalued the human body by shifting paradigms from survival-induced movements to cosmetically based exercise prescriptions. The result was a society eager to trade function for aesthetic perfection. Since not everyone can meet the challenges of playing a team sport like basketball or racquetball, fitness became a means of interaction with strangers of like interests, thus spawning friendships and further supporting continued participation in supplemental physical activity or active recreation. The development of machines was brought about by a sense of comfort, ease, certainty theory, and the need to figure everything out. Unfamiliarity tends to lead to discomfort among the masses, potentially resulting in fear, uncertainty, and anxious insecurity of the unknown. This desire to know was formed in a time that is today most commonly referred to as the modern age, the age of entitlement, and the age of enlightenment. In the age of analysis and research, poking, prodding, and breaking down the body into smaller and smaller parts became synonymous with knowledge and the ability to formulate a program's methods and modalities to an exact science. It was at this point that analysis became synonymous with thinking. It was thought by breaking thoughts and objects down into smaller and smaller pieces, anything and everything could then become knowable, sociable, controllable, and functional. The human body consists of 700 joints, 206 bones, and 300 muscles. Thus, it takes a great deal of precision to correctly move about the unpredictable, unstable, chaotic environment we face daily. A better understanding of how muscle function was first described, decided, and how it was used to formulate programming, method, and modality design, movement and activity used equipment design, and rehabilitation will enlighten us on how to better view muscle function for optimum training. The isolated function of muscles were first described in cadavers, that is correct, dead, lifeless bodies that were incapable of movement, proprioceptively dead, obviously in horizontal, non-standing, non-functional positions. How can we take the dead, lifeless function of a body and its parts and use it to tell us how a living body responds with and to movement, affected by gravity, momentum, inertia, and ground reaction force, to a given situation, and then design enhancement and rehabilitative programs and ways to get better around these developed theories and philosophies? Interesting question to think about. To figure out a muscle's responsibility, cadavers were laid on tables face up, face down, and on its side. In these positions, the back, front, and side of the body is in a sense in contact with the ground, quote unquote. With the body being made up of, again, 700 joints, 206 bones, and 300 muscles, each of the body's 300 muscles roles and responsibilities were determined in a sense by the direction it would move an extremity and joint. If the table and body were seemingly moved and shifted to fall off the table while the body was in this face up, face down, or side position, any muscle action would pull the extremity, example the leg or the foot, toward the ground. Furthermore, in this cadaver lab setting, as movement itself, the end result is just nothing more than a direct response to how well the body loads and uses its sense of touch and feel from its little proprioceptors, all those little sensory organs, to feel, to learn new skills and how to build upon and improve current skills. The deceleration and stabilization of portions that are constantly changing throughout the kinetic chain in the body were completely neglected, especially concerning rotational, diagonal, and lateral patterns. Interesting. So those are the most important. Part 3 comes